Hello, my name's James. I'm a portrait photographer from Portsmouth in the UK. You've probably not heard of me, and I welcome you to this, a new series of videos where we're looking at portfolio critiques. We are going to be looking, or more, I prefer the term portfolio reviews actually, and we're going to be looking at other photographers' work, bringing it into the spotlight, exposing you to different takes on things inside and outside of the wrestling scene, and just having a look at their images, providing some feedback, looking at the positives, looking at the things that could be improved, and looking to help people step up to the next level in their creative process. So without further ado, we have the first portfolio here from a gentleman by the name of West Smith. He goes by the name of Ukulele Punk on Instagram. We heartily recommend that you follow that account, give that guy a lot of love. He shoots a lot of wrestling work, as you'll see here. He's part of our small niche of wrestling photographers that I've met on both in person and online, and he's looking to learn studio lighting and to improve that, but he's also sent in a lot of ringside work. There's a lot of variety in here, which I'm delighted and excited to sort of showcase with you. So let's start off here with image number one that he sent in here. The brilliant Ref Aubrey there. I'm in the middle, directing traffic as usual. So this is obviously a ringside capture where the action spilled out into the outside, and you got the real rawness of this venue. That's the first thing that strikes me about this image, is just how sort of spit and sawdust everything looks like. The different, you got all the tape on the floor with the wires from the from all of the equipment that they use for lighting and for rigging the arena. You got this sort of like tiled floor on this side here, this wooden floor on this side here. We've got like and just the crowd interaction, just looking at all of the different expressions there are within that crowd as the action is sort of spilling out onto them. This is one of the great things, if you've never been to a wrestling show, this is one of the really cool things about going to a wrestling show, is that you can be part of the action, and the action can be part of you at any time, which is, you know, unique, I think, and different from any other sort of form of entertainment there. The expressions of the wrestlers actually here are really good. I love the narrative here between Aubrey and the wrestlers. Look at this little guy here just sharing a little moment with his friend, and just all of the cool different expressions. Lovely little flash off of the camera there. We've done really well here to create an image without an awful lot of grain. I can only assume how low light this was. The lighting at these shows on the indie level isn't often the place where promoters put their finances, understandably. So you often have to work in sort of low light situations, but we've really captured this really well here. I do like the elements in the background. I would maybe, like, there's a few things I'd maybe just sort of look to take out or dumb down. The neon light down here is very bright on this side here. We've got this just coming out the top of their head here. It's just maybe just a little bit of attention to detail there, but I love all of these. I love all of this, all of these bare wires at the top, and just everything just telling a great story. It's just a really well captured moment, really well observed, and I like the option that the photographer's chosen here to go wide. Potentially though, the elements of the fringe of the picture are potentially maybe just drawing away from everything that's going on here. Have a little bit of an experiment with a maybe tighter crop, and it'll maybe something like that maybe makes the whole scene just look a little busier, and draws your eye around from the guy in the foreground here raising his fist all the way down to Aubrey down here. So you've got a natural line in here, which potentially might have been helped with a slightly tighter crop. I don't know. It's just an option. But I love the scene, and this is indie wrestling. Welcome to the world of that. Next up, so we got sort of like an environmental portrait here, outside in the leaves. The good thing about these critiques is I'm taking them. I've had a very quick look as I downloaded the images, but I haven't actually sort of studied them in detail. So you're getting my sort of genuine reactions as we sort of see them. I love the marrying of the autumnal leaves with the hair color and the beard color and the eye color in here. Everything works in unison there, which is really nice. I'm not entirely sure on the composition of the image. It's neither central. It's not really working on the thirds. I don't know whether it needs more or less space, either a tighter crop or a less crop. It's kind of like halfway between the two. There's a few little elements here that maybe could have just done with like taking out or just a little bit more of care and attention. This little stick here, this stick along the cheek line here, the little finger up here just sort of poking in here, the little finger up here just sort of poking in here. I just think they sort of distract slightly away from the rest of the image. Just for me personally, as soon as you start to see those, because they're so bright in the picture, they kind of knock it out of balance. I actually like the expression. It's a little different. I like the little placement of the leaf along the middle here as well. But I just think maybe there was something else there that we could have done just to maybe either come out and make more of that colour, make more of it, and make more of a statement maybe, and maybe having those eyes looking at the camera, so we've got a real connection with the viewer, potentially was an option there. Okay, so this is, I remember when this one downloaded, and it was the one of these 10 that really caught my attention. I'm just going to go in nice and close here. It's a really, I mean, there's so much distortion in here, and it's such a, it's a challenging image, unquestionably. It asks a hell of a lot of questions with regards to motivation behind it. The dramatic use of sellotape to really distort the face and is unnerving, because we're not used to seeing faces in that way, sort of day to day. You know, you're used to this. Although everyone's face is different, you're used to the basic constructs, and when things are pushed out of joint and out of shape, and things look different, it really draws your attention. So I applaud the real use of creativity, and I really applaud the expression as well. Outside of what we've done to distort the face, there is actually a really genuine expression from our model here, that's coming out. She feels almost trapped and frustrated, and in some kind of, I don't want to say pain, but in some sort of turmoil there, certainly. Potentially a comment on mental health with regards to certain things. I don't know. You'd need to speak to the author. Maybe Wes can tell us. But I love the way that the distortion of the face is married up by this really dramatic makeup. The real use of reds just smeared and splattered across there work really well. We've got a certain amount of bounce back from the light of the background of the yellow into the sellotape here, which has just distorted some elements within the hair. It's not possibly as clean as we'd like. Potentially sort of bring ourselves away from that background a little bit just to give us a cleaner cut, and potentially maybe use a light behind 45 degrees round behind the model just to separate her from the background a little. But yes, an unnerving image, and it's a strong portrait. I'm not sure it needs the top. I'd make it even more like, potentially look at making it look even more congested, even tighter there to give that real claustrophobic feel, potentially as a way to sort of go on there. But yeah, really unique image that. Back in the ring, defy wrestling. Wrestling is forever. I think that's Matt Cross's gimmick, isn't it? And what a moment. I mean, this is, I believe that's Super Crazy doing the moonsault. It's caught, West has caught this moment perfectly in terms of the timing of the moonsault. So we've really got that arch at the back, and we've got the look round and the look down, and it just looks so dramatic. I like the narrative of the photographer down here or the videographer down here taking the image here. Love the use of the spotlights, particularly this spotlight here that's shining a light on our guy there. Potentially look at just, and there's a Photoshop cheat, but look at maybe copying this and just bring it onto the other side, because we're imbalanced here with a light here and a light here. And if we can copy this light here cleverly and just stick it here with a nice stream of light coming in here, then we've really drawn our attention to Super Crazy in the middle. Because he's the centerpiece of this, and while our model's on the floor, while the other wrestlers is on the floor, the other wrestler, in this instance, we can't see enough of him. We can't see enough drama in what he's doing, because we in the wrestling industry probably know what he's up to down there now. And it's a shame that we just can't see a little bit more of his face. And it's a shame also that he's just got little heads just poking up around here that are just distracting away from that. But what a moment to capture here. And again, in these low light conditions, to use a high shutter speed like that and to get that moment frozen, really applaud you, Wes. That's excellent. I just couple of little attentions to detail, and possibly a black and white conversion maybe as well, because there isn't a lot of colour unison in there. There's not a lot of colour working together. So if we use black and white with those lights, you'll see how Super Crazy is really, how he's really drawn out from the rest of the shot. Oh, I think I saw this one before. What a character! This is the stuff I love. What a character portrait. There's a slight grain on this. When we go super close, we can see the graininess of it. And I think, normally that's a criticism. I think that really helps the image. It gives it a real timeless, a real film style feel to it. Look at those eyes. This is obviously post deathmatch, or post something in the ring where something's happened, where the wrestler's come backstage with a cut and is covered in blood. And you'll know as a photographer who works backstage, anytime a wrestler comes back covered in blood, they're just looking for it. They're begging for a photographer to take their picture. So if you're new to shooting backstage at wrestling shows, if you're one of our little niche bunch, don't be afraid of approaching a wrestler who's got a cut, provided they've received the correct medical attention afterwards, and they're all good. Don't obviously go stampeding in there in that situation, but don't be afraid to ask to take a wrestler's picture when they're covered in blood, because they're very, very proud of it. I love that shot. It's a great use of high key. High key, for me, when it's used well, is a brilliant medium to photograph portraits, and when it's used badly, it's kind of like the other end of the scale. I love the energy, I love the character, I love the moment, I just love everything about it. I think it's such a strong image, and there's really not a lot else to say. There's not a lot I would change about that. Well done. You should be really proud of that one. That's a lovely and a great use of a slightly wider lens as well. Just to really, you use that wider lens in portraits and can sometimes distort and not look right, but this one really comes out at you. What a great shot. Okay, something more along the lines here with regards to sort of like a fashion shot. We've got the black boots and the red outfit here with the red lipstick, the red makeup, and obviously the red hair as well. Working with a red and black background, so the styling is pretty good on this one. The lines are slightly off for me. I'm not convinced that the placement is right here, with the line just sort of just cutting the top of the hair and then down here into the shoulder. Maybe make a more definite attempt, because we've cropped it in frame here, so that I think if we were to measure this, let's just go for it now. So it's a 19 inch, yeah. So it's a 19 inch frame, and about 9.5 inches in, that's where the line is. You see where my guideline is there? So we are working with a 1/2 there. However, the line of the background isn't on a 1/2 down here, because it's come away, because we're working on a slight angle. But the other problem with that is that it's not 1/2 colour balance in terms of what she's wearing. She's got black boots on, but the rest of her outfit, the rest of her hair, the rest of her makeup is all red. So there's that imbalance there. So potentially looking at that background and using it in the opposite balance to what she's wearing might have worked, or in the same balance to what she's wearing might have worked. But 50-50 isn't quite working for me on here. I like the pose. When we go in super close, we've used fairly hard spotlight source away from the model here. We can tell that because we've got a tiny little catch light, which is at a perfect position. It looks like we've got a softbox over the top as well. So we've got maybe like a kicker light and then a softbox over the top. That's what I'm guessing from those two catch lights in there. But the problem with this is there's no catch light in here. A very mild one from the one over the top, but there's no second catch light. And that just leads to a little bit imbalance. And that just means that your lights are just a little bit too high on this. Just a little bit more control in that, and bring that in. But a good attempt at something different with regards to a fashion shot there. I just think you need to work on those color balances and try and work to create something a bit more dynamic in there. Classical portrait. I haven't seen this one. Let's try and work this out. What an interesting look. We need a tiny little, I mean, I don't know whether, it's always a little thing in terms of retouching. Any little spots, moles and birthmarks I tend to keep, but little spots I tend to just lose. So these little ones on the chin, I just lose them there with a little bit of a clone or a healing brush or whatever you want to use. Similarly with the little bits of, it's very difficult when you're working with black, but you'll see these little spots and specks and things like that. They just need to be touched up there and just taken out as well. I'm a fiend for attention to detail. But what great use of hands, and it's not, they've not been posed classically perfectly. You know, and whenever we're doing critiques, often people spend so much time talking about hands and hand placements, but I think the way the hands look and the little tattoos, I want to see a bit more of this one, actually help tell a story. And there's a real unnerving way in the way that she's sort of held there. Your eye is drawn to those hands, for me. Use of a blue kicker on this side, so we've obviously, I think we've got some sort of honeycomb kicker on the side here, bouncing a little bit of blue light here. I don't think it needs it. I don't think it's helping add anything to the picture. I think you've done so well to control the light, particularly with regards to the size of the hat, and that little kick of blue just isn't working with the picture or against it. It's doing neither. I would have just maybe left that and just maybe taken the gel off, and maybe if you wanted a little kicker, just put it in there, or use a kicker to get a bit more light on that hat potentially and create a little bit of separation. Again, a little bit of attention to detail where the mohairs just come underneath that. Just clone all of that out. Let's just give that a little bit of a clean around there altogether, really. But other than that, a really solid classic picture, a really solid classic portrait. Yeah, like that one. Now next up, this has been presented this way, so I assume this is the way that we wanted it to be viewed. If we rotate the image, let's just have a look at that now, counterclockwise. I'm assuming that this potentially was the way that it was shot, or even more, it could have been that way. I'm not sure, but we're going to go with what the photographer has presented, which is this. Obviously shot on location. And it's a good use of the light to sort of get the rim lighting around the legs is really nice. It's a great expression. And you in these situations don't have a lot of control over the pose. So the pose for this sort of situation is pretty much in hands of the person who's using the pole to balance themselves and to steady themselves. So there's no way you can really give a lot of direction in there. I'd maybe just run a dodge tool just over that hair, just to bring that out just a little bit. I maybe would have cloned out this light that's super close to the face here. I'm not sure that's that, and I'm not sure it needs all this space. You've got all of these lights down here, this big blob of light down here, these little lights down here, which aren't really helping the image at all. They're not shining any light. They're not drawing your eye to anywhere. Compare that to these two lights here. So this one going down here and this one going down here below the model. They've got streams of light where you've got atmosphere within the scene, and they're actually drawing your attention to our subject in there. And I'm not sure that the other ones are. I'm not too fussed about this stream of light up here in the triangle in the corner there. It's fine. It's like I said, it's a well captured moment. Just needed a little bit of refinement and a little bit of attention to detail. I like the subtlety of the textures in the background because we've got separation because we're on quite a wide aperture here. So I like that little bit of subtlety where we can see a little bit of texture and a little bit of detail in the background. Just lose these little bits around the arms and stuff like that, so that she's got a nice clean cut away from everything else. This next image now has been censored for YouTube, so you'll forgive me. It didn't originally come with a grey rectangle, but this really jumped out at me. I mean, what a shot! What attitude, and just what an expression as well, and what an idea, what a concept, and what an interesting choice to choose to go black and white on this one. I'm assuming that the everything around here is sort of red in the scene itself, because it looks like quite a raw, sort of horrific image here. It's very raw, but I love the way that she's posed up against the basin here. I love the unnervingness of it. I love the placement within the frame. I love the use of the curtain here to sort of give us some nice some nice lines on this side of the composition, as opposed to the sort of very straight lines around the rest of the composition. You've got the mirror working with the wall here and all this kind of stuff. A little bit of care. Just take a little bit of care on your whites. It's just falling out of brightness, as you can see here, just in certain areas of the picture. We want all of those we want all those tones to be within range of black and white and not falling out of white. But such an interesting concept and such an interesting shot and such emotion from that scene. It's that's a wonderful capture. And then lastly, Penta. So this is something I talk about all the time with regards to resting photography. You've got to take your inside captures and look at how you can crop and compose in camera to create different scenes and different emotions. Straight off the bat, we've got overexposure on the arm here. So you've got all of this area here that just needs to be toned down because it's fallen out of white and there's no detail in there whatsoever. Having said that, good use of a wide aperture, separated our subjects away from the background. Excellent expression, as always, from Penta here. Good actual use of the tones and the colour around there. I almost want to see more of this blue extended over here, and there are ways you can do that in Photoshop, but the blue is working well with the gold and the yellow in Penta's costume. But this is all about the story of this going here, and the fact that his opponent's face isn't in the picture helps it. It helps the narrative even more because it simplifies everything. Sometimes in photography, less is more. And the fact that we can't see his face means it's drawn our attention to what he's doing with his eye, which draws our attention to the expression of the other guy, and it's great. Not mad keen on the crop of Penta through the waist and through the angles of the elbows. Potentially looking at something just a little bit different, either coming out a bit more or even going in a little bit closer would work for me on this one. But yeah, this is what I mean when I'm talking to specifically to wrestling photographers, but also to the wider photographer community. Look at your frames, look inside your camera, look inside your viewfinder, and decide, is there anything in there that I don't want in that picture? Is there anything in there that is distracting from this narrative? Is there anything in there that could take away from the story I'm trying to tell with this shot? And because this one has got nothing distracting in the background, it's drawn our attention to everything that's going on in the middle, and it's a wonderful shot. So there we are, that's our first portfolio review done. Thank you very much to West for contacting me. It means a great deal. Do follow him at Ukulele Punk. If you would like a portfolio review with me, you can get one. Simply email portraitofawrestler@gmail.com for the full information. We need 10 of your favourite images. You can be a photographer of any standard from anywhere in the world, choosing anything you like. During this downtime, during this difficult period, I'll be doing portfolio reviews for free. So just send me an email, portraitofawrestler@gmail.com, with your 10 favourite images and your reasons as to why you would like a portfolio review, and we will get that done for you as soon as possible. In the meantime, you can follow me on the Instagram and the Twitter at Y2JimBob. It's Portrait of a Wrestler everywhere else. And as ever, all the very best.